stands to reason that the Saints would be involved in more than one of those high-scoring games. That's kind of been the MO under Sean Payton with Drew Brees as his quarterback. Kind of reminds me, though, of the 51-42 Saints win over the St. Louis Cardinals back in 1969. Ken Trahan, sportsNOLAtv. The New Orleans Saints went to Glendale, Arizona, indoors but outdoors because the roof was open, and the Saints opened it up offensively, putting up 48 points, and they needed them all in a 48-41 victory. The Saints racking up the total yardage, nearly 500 in the game, and rumors of Drew Brees' demise were greatly exaggerated. He was tremendous in the game. 4 touchdowns, no picks, and nearly 400 yards. And the Saints forced a couple of turnovers, which was obviously a big part of this victory. So New Orleans keeps its very faint playoff hopes alive. If the Redskins win tonight on Monday Night Football, the Saints are done. If the Redskins lose, those faint hopes remain alive going into next week. But let's focus on what happened this week. The Saints played very well offensively, actually pretty good in the first half defensively, no good in the second half defensively. But Brian, this is what the Saints are at their very best, using all their weapons. Drew Brees playing great, and they put up a lot of points, by the way, against the top-ranked defense in the NFL.
Well, that's the most surprising thing. I think if you beforehand, I don't know what the over-under was, but they certainly eclipsed that easily. But yeah, this was a point fest. Both offenses were prolific, and much different game than I think probably the three of us expected. You know, the defense had been playing really well for the most part the last few weeks, 5 weeks, 4 weeks. And then it kind of, like Kenny said, the second half kind of, they got exposed a little bit. And I think the players that were missing, certainly it came to fruition, showed that they were missing them.
Well, I mean, you know, and they caught Arizona on a good day, too. I mean, Arizona defense looked horrible.
Horrible.
I mean, just looking at the defensive back, I mean, Cook catch a 10-yard pass and goes 60 to 70 yards.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, that's just bad defense. I mean, great, fast as Cook is, you got one guy on him who can't stay up with him all day long. That was just bad defense by Arizona. Drew Brees picked them apart. And the thing about it is, he only threw like one deep ball. The rest of the ball was, you know, intermediate balls and just run with the rest of the way out. So, I mean, it was just terrible, the defense that Arizona played. Saints played bad defense too, but,
yeah,
you know, they did just what I look for them to do in most games, have a shootout and offense score more than the other team since we don't have a great defense. But, you know, that's what you look for, the Saints, score more points than the other team.
Speaking of Brandon Cooks, he had a memorable afternoon in Arizona, putting up some tremendous numbers, and they really do rank with the best in New Orleans Saints history. In fact, third most yards in a game put up by New Orleans Saints receiver Wes Chandler tops the list. Our former comrade Torrance Small in the second spot in that memorable game at Denver on a Christmas Eve, by the way.
Right.
I was there.
I was too.
And then Brandon Cooks, of course, now third, surpassing Joe Horn, and he knocks down to fourth. Brandon Cooks is a big play guy. It's what they drafted him for, and some people say, well, he disappears at times. He's kind of soft, that type of stuff. All I know is he's had 2 1,000-yard seasons and 20 touchdowns in 2 years. He's done exactly what they drafted him to do.
Kenny, I agree, and that's what makes that game where he wasn't even targeted. I don't know if they threw him a ball. That's what makes that such an anomaly, is that what happened in that game, because this guy does. He's a big part of their offense, and when Drew and he are clicking, they're two of the best collaborators in the league.
All right, so you brought it up, and Brandon Cooks didn't get a target, and the Saints scored 49 and beat the Rams, and he complained on social media. Yeah. Mark Ingram gets taken out of the game, doesn't score a touchdown, and he goes ballistic, and we all know what it was about. It wasn't about incentives. It was about he wanted to score the touchdown. Ricky, it's not about it's not about me. Is this part of the problem with the New Orleans Saints? The fact that they still have character issues? I know you want to get the sack, but you wanted to win the football game. That's what it's about. You now have 2 prominent guys, both first-round picks, who complain about their own touches, who complain about their own ability to score a touchdown and to get the ball. Is that a problem from your perspective?
Well, Ken, it's a principle. I mean, you know, one guy already got a touchdown. We get to the 1 or 2 yard line. Look like you would feed me that ball, let me get the touchdown. You know what I mean? It's not the idea. All of them have egos. Everybody have egos. You see last week when the Saints done lost the ball game, Drew Brees didn't have a touchdown. They still with 2 seconds left trying to throw a touchdown. You know, So all of them got egos.
But he didn't call that play.
No, I mean what I'm saying, but still, you're throwing the ball with 2 seconds
That's
left,
Sean
and you
Payton.
done lost the game.
Yeah,
But
sure.
what I'm saying, so it's just the idea that all of them want to do good, and all of them worry about their stats. I mean, you win the ball game, but the guy's still selfish. So
Okay, I got that, but I'm gonna take the other side of this. If the roles were reversed, Tim Hightower would never, and I mean never, have done that or said that. Marcus Colston would never have done that if Devery Henderson or Lance Moore got targeted and scored a touchdown. I mean, to me, it is about character. I understand wanting the ball. There's only one football to go around, and everybody can't touch the ball, and everybody can't score touchdowns. I really believe this, Brian, and you can jump in too. I believe that the proliferation of fantasy football and all these leagues that take place, not to mention contracts and status and the highlights, have really taken a toll on some of these players. The guys with character need to bite their lips, and they do. And I'm not saying these guys don't have character. I'm saying they made mistakes, but unfortunately, I think it's a systemic problem when you're talking about a team that's 6-8 and you got players complaining about not scoring touchdowns or getting the ball.
But you're talking about guys, Ken, different. You talking about Colson, those guys drafted in the 6th round and stuff. You talking about Cook 1st round. You talking about Ingram Heisman Trophy 1st round. So those guys, they really got a different attitude than those guys who, glad to be on the team who done made it. So it's a different
and the
attitude
Saints,
with
by the
those
way,
guys.
traded up to get both of those guys, right?
Yeah, I think what it made me think yesterday when it happened, because when I saw Mark react the way he did, what I thought was this, is that Tim Hightower got drafted by the Cardinals, got into the league. This guy is one of these great comeback stories, and I really think that Peyton and the play calling was to kind of give him a little bit of a return flavor, going back and scoring against his old team. And I'm with you, Kenny. I understand exactly where you're coming from. You know what? I can remember in the past, players, what Mark did and Brandon did, they'd be gone, okay? They would be gone from this regime. So we'll see. And sometimes there is a double standard. These guys are 2 contributing players on a very good offense, and they need to keep that in mind.
What would happen if they did that and Bill Belichick was the head coach?
Oh,
of the
you're
football
absolutely
team?
right, Kenny. I'm with you. Okay.
Belichick doesn't care about stars,
No.
other than Tom Brady. He's interchanged everybody over and over again. Their receivers, their running backs, their defensive backs, their linebackers. I mean, he's moved every part imaginable over an extended period of time, and to me, that's part of it. You take care of this behind closed doors. I'm sure Sean Payton will. You have to, because it looks bad, it feels bad, it smells bad. It's not good. If you're another wide receiver on that team or another running back, you can't feel very good about the way those guys reacted. If you're the offensive line who blocks your rear ends off for guys to score touchdowns, you can't feel too good about that either. And I got nothing against Mark Ingram.
No.
Got nothing against Brandon Cooks. Ingram's a solid player. He'll never be real good, but he's solid. And Brandon Cooks, he's better than average, but he's not great. I think that's a fair assessment.
Kenny, you know what I've always liked about Sean Payton's teams are he put team generally focuses first, okay? You don't have the divas acting out like you do in some other franchises, particularly one in Dallas, okay? So this doesn't play well in New Orleans, if you ask me.
All right, so then there's the story of Drew Brees. Of course, 6 interceptions, no touchdowns in 2 games. Everybody's saying, oh, he's losing it, and he's getting old. He can't throw the ball deep, all that kind of stuff. I guess that changed out in the desert because Brees had a phenomenal game, and his passer rating this year is awfully good by comparison to where he's been previously. In fact, the 2 best he's ever had were the 2 best Saints teams, 2009 and 2011. And I still say 2011 was the best team. And by the way, Brees had a better pass rating that year than he did in the Super Bowl year. And look at him this year, nearly 103, which is outstanding from a quarterback rating perspective. So he's certainly not the problem, never has been. He had 2 bad games. And if he doesn't play well, they don't win. It's that simple.
Well, looking at the whole thing, Ken, I go by records. I mean, I'm a guy that trying to get to the Super Bowl, and anything else less than playoff or Super Bowl, really don't make a difference. All them stats is good and dandy, but, where you going at the end of the year? You're going home with everybody else going fishing, or you're going keep playing football games. So my whole thing is I judge a team by what the team doing, not by individual. And right now, I mean, if Washington win tonight, the Saints out of the playoff again, So now, where you go from there? You start rebuilding. How, what you gonna do next year? You got a 37-year-old quarterback coming back. You know what I mean? So You got a lot of offensive line help that you need. So now, what you're going to start doing from there? You got to start rebuilding it already. So that's the whole bottom line to what you're going to face.
Well, it's offensive line and cornerback, I think, clearly that the Saints need to address moving forward. And, of course, the other part of that is when you look at what happened to Arizona yesterday, it kind of made you understand why their record is what it is. They extended 3 drives for the Saints that resulted in touchdowns with senseless penalties. They turned it over twice. That's the sure sign of a loser.
They displayed the Christmas spirit full throttle out there in the desert. Yeah, I mean, look, the Saints deserve to win. I'm not saying that, but you're right, Kenny. That Arizona, it was as self-destructive a team as you'll ever see this football season, and they helped them along the way.
Kind of thing that's happened to the Saints before.
Yeah.
Well, they coach bad. I mean, they had Honey Badger on Cook.
Yeah.
I mean, no way he can stay with Cook.
Right.
I
And
mean,
then Peterson, they didn't know where to send him.
Right,
And on the flip side, the Saints had Von Bell trying to cover fast wide receivers.
Right.
No shot.
Right.
No shots. I
Right.
mean, it was just out there that Arizona, after the play, they kept doing stupid things that get them beat. And then, you know what I mean? So my whole thing, it looked like Coach lost the ball club. I mean, that's what it looked like. Arizona looked like Coach just he an offensive genius. He don't know defense. So it looked like to me the defense just running wild doing anything.
sportsNOLAtv is presented today by our great friends at Premier Honda. Premier Honda has more than every deal you could ever want. It's more than your typical dealership. They believe in teamwork, integrity, delivering impeccable quality, and creating the best experience in purchasing a car. No other dealership offers home delivery and a lifetime warranty. Premier Honda, New Orleans, 11801 I-10 Service Road in New Orleans East. Visit PremierHonda.com and have your test drive delivered to you. Either way, you will be treated like family. We'll talk about the NFL when we return in a moment on sportsNOLAtv.